Hi everyone, these lectures are part of the current affairs series which are mainly intended for engineering service preliminary exam and also railway management exam along with civil service preliminary and main exam. Here we will see about key highlights of economic survey 2019-20. So you will be aware every year economic survey will come. It will be published before the budget is presented in the parliament. So what is the intention of this economic survey? We have chief economic advisor and under his guidance economic survey will be prepared every year. So this economic survey is more like a directional document regarding the policies of the government, regarding the ideology of the government. So we will get an idea how the economic policies of government will be when we read this survey. Since the chief economic advisor is appointed by the government, that office will also be sharing the same ideologies as the government. The economic survey will conduct a study and analyzes the situation of the economy and suggest the policy measures for the government. So this document is very important for a civil service aspirant. They have to read the document well so that they will get an idea of the government policies and government schemes coming this year. Also, they will get very good references to write in the essay type questions. For engineering service aspirants, there is no need of going to the full document. Since the survey, there is a philosophical base, theoretical base for the arguments they are putting. So those terms and concepts will be important. Now let us start. So this economic survey lies on the concept of wealth creation. Wealth creation is an important aspect in an economy. And it examines how the wealth creation is happening in Indian economy and what are the philosophy behind it and how we can improve the wealth creation. So the economic survey has taken two philosophies, that is from Kautilya and from Adam Smith. So taking inputs from Kautilya's Arthashastra, economic survey is telling that the invisible hand should be supported by the hand of trust for wealth creation. So we see these things in discussion. Now let us see what are the important points that are discussed in the economic survey. So first one is about the role of prices, how the prices are determined. What is the government intervention, how government intervention will affect it. And it says that historically Indian economy has laid on invisible hand of the market with the support of hand of trust. Openness, that is, there is no government regulations. Economic transactions happens in a free market condition. So this term is important for engineering service exam. What is meant by free market? In free market, the market forces will determine the prices. Government want to regulate the price, government want to set the price, but according to the supply and demand, each and every commodity price will be determined. So we should allow the free market mechanisms to operate so that there will be role of prices in the economy, and that openness will act as the invisible hand to achieve the equilibrium so that everybody will get the best. That's what it meant. And along with that, trust is required. So how the free market mechanism work? If there is a trust in the economy, that is the consumers should trust the producers should be having ethical practices, and government should also trust the economic activities. They should not be suspecting. Thus the government should be having the trust of the people. Before 1991, what happened? Government control was more. Many sectors were under direct control of the government. Private players were not allowed, and many many commodities prices were determined by the government. So there was presence of government in each and every sphere, and post liberalization many of the sectors were open to the private market, that is free market. So post liberalization, these were the main pillars of the economic model, that is free market and hand of trust. So surveys tells that there are benefits if we enable the invisible hand of the market. And it shows data that liberalized sectors grew significantly faster than the closed ones. So if we compare the sectors which were still under government control and that were liberalized in 1991, if we compare the growth in these sectors, these liberalized sectors grew significantly faster. So, India's aspiration to become $5 trillion economy depends on strengthening the invisible hand of market and supporting it with hand of trust. So, how we can strengthen the invisible hand? By promoting pro-business policies, be enabling the people who are doing business, that is, it is aiding the business, pro-business policies. Then equal opportunities for the new entrants, not only the existing players, new people should also be able to come into the market. Then only competition will come. Enable fair competition and ease of doing business. This is the role of the government. Government should ensure that there is fair competition. That is, existing players should not be having unethical practice to prevent other parties to entering into the market. So this regulatory mechanism is required to see that predatory pricing, concealing of resources, taking full share of the resources like that shouldn't happen, so that anybody can enter into business. And ease of doing business, there are a lot of regulations in business, registration, taxes, electricity, land, contracts, dispute settlement. So government should eliminate the policies that are against this free market mechanism. So enable trade, scale up banking sector. So this sector survey is discussing how the government intervention has affected these sectors. And then idea of trust as public good. Trust should be a public good. And transparency, effective enforcement. So transparency will help in building the trust, also building good regulation. Regulation should be without any biases, objective regulations, and effective enforcement. Enforcement is enforcing those rules and laws using data and technology. So these are the main points that are discussed in the survey. Now let us see one by one what are the terms and concepts involved in this. So we have seen the invisible hand many times. What is this invisible hand? This is the market force. It is a market force that helps demand and supply of goods in a free market to reach equilibrium automatically. So as per the demand, there will be supply of goods. As the supply of goods, there can be demand. So there comes an equilibrium in demand and supply, and it will determine the price. So if demand is more, price will be higher. If supply is more, price will be lesser. So it will arrive at an equilibrium, and at that equilibrium price, goods will be sold. So it's all open. So if there is a demand for a good, me or you can enter the market, produce that good and supply and earn money. Right? If there is more supply of goods and I am supplying that good in the market, I can stop it because it is no longer profitable. So this automatic equilibrium that is happening in the market is called invisible hand. That is not seen in any policy measures or any other changes, but it remains invisible. How this equilibrium is happening is an invisible phenomenon, but it happens. So this concept was put forward by Adam Smith in his book The Wealth of Nations. So he advocated that economy can work well in free market scenario where everyone will work for his or her own interest. So here the economy will work on self-interest. Everybody will try to improve their self-interest, own interest. But it will help. But that's what Adam Smith says. Even though everybody is selfish, it will help the economy overall. How? As we discussed before, if a person is supplying good for lesser price, people will try to buy that price. So other people, if they are charging more or if they are using inefficient methods to produce the good, they have to reduce the price so to be competitive, otherwise they will lose out. So here who will be benefiting? Orally, the consumers will be benefiting because they will be getting goods at the lesser prices, right? And producers also, if they are supplying according to the demand and adopting technologies, adopting efficient practice, they will also gain. So it is a mutual win-win situation. That's what the invisible hand that was discussing in survey. We should allow free market mechanism so that this invisible hand mechanism will work. If there is no free market mechanism, say the government is intervening in between and tell to a drug seller that you price this medicine at a particular price, say for 100 rupees. It may not be reflecting the production cost. It may not be reflecting the demand. But since government regulation is there, there will be distortion in this equilibrium. So what survey wants to tell is that in the absence of these regulations, the market economy will do good. That is better for the economy. Next, what is the role of prices in an economy as postulated by Kautilya? So as per Kautilya, the root of wealth is economic activity. If there is economic activity only, there will be wealth creation. So it tells about how the wealth is created. So government should promote economic activity. It should not curb the economic activity. So for promoting economic activity, what government can do? It can improve the ease of doing business. It can simplify the regulations. It can ensure free market mechanism. It can ensure fair competition. So a lot of things are there with the government. So there should be government. If there are enough people who have technology and skill, they will start up some activities. For that, entrepreneurship should be encouraged. More people should come up with ideas. More people should come up with the courage that they can start their own economic activity. So advice of Kautilya is that for achieving the desired objectives of an abundance of riches, so king should undertake productive economic activity. And he also asked the king to remove all obstructions to economic activity by advocating economic freedom. Arthashastra is the book written by Kautilya. It discusses issues ranging from governance to tax. So it is like a policy advice to the king, how to govern, how to tax people, how to control the commerce. What it tells about good governance is that it is based on economic policy, law and enforcement, philosophical and ethical framework, and cultural. So these factors are determine the good governance. So here the trust that is discussed in the economic survey can be related to this philosophical and ethical framework. So what is this trust as a public good? So in economic lectures we have seen that there are two types of goods, public good and private goods. Public goods are that is open for the common consumption, that will be mainly provided by the government. And how we can identify that a particular good as a public good? There are certain characteristics. So trust is also a public good because it has the characteristics as below. Non-excludability. Non-excludability means the citizens can enjoy its benefits at no explicit financial cost. That is, if the trust is there, each and every citizen need not pay it. It is common. Everybody can use it. That is non-excludability. Nobody can be excluded. There are certain goods, if we pay only, that we will get electricity, water, etc. Even the government is providing, we have to pay. If we don't pay, we won't get this goods or services. It is excludable, right? So if government is giving public education, health facilities as free, they are non-excludable. Anybody can enjoy it with no explicit financial cost. Explicit financial cost means we are not directly paying, but we may be paying in different forms to the government, like taxes. That is implicit. Non-reveal consumption means consuming of that good by one person doesn't prevent another person from consuming it. That is, if I am having the benefits of public good like good environment, then you will also have. Since I am having the benefit of good environment, it doesn't mean that you will not get it. Both of us will get it. Otherwise, in other words, the cost of supplying this public good to an extra citizen is zero. That is, if the government is supplying this good to 100 people and the next 101 the person also want to enjoy it, government has no extra cost involved in it. So the cost of supplying this good to 100 people is same as cost of supplying this goods to 110 people, 120 people, etc. It is non-reveal consumption. Consumption by one person does not destroy the resources. Consumption of these resources by one person does not prevent the consumption of it by other people. Non-rejectable. It is collective supply for all citizens. Cannot be rejected. So if I am in that community, I can't tell that I don't want this, because it is provided as a common good. Nobody can reject it. So nobody can reject the good health. If there is sanitation everywhere, one person cannot tell I don't want sanitation. So it is common to everybody. But there is a difference. Unlike other public goods, trust grows with a repeated use, therefore takes time to build. It is not like some goods or service provided, it has to form. It has to form with trust in government. So it takes time to build. So with repeated use, the trust will develop. Lack of trust represents an externality where decision makers are not responsible for some of the consequences of their actions. So externality means other than the intended benefits, there can be negative and positive benefits for an economic activity. For example, if you are undertaking power generation with the coal, it will damage the environment. There is a negative externality. Similarly, if there is lack of trust, there will be a negative externality. That is, the people may not be able to buy the government. They will doubt. They will think before. If the government is asking to pay taxes, they will be doubting. They will try to evade the taxes. So if government is not able to take responsibility for their actions, this lack of trust will happen. So there is the ethical base. So what is the philosophy behind it? Aristotle says that good laws make good citizens. So government should try to inculcate the social virtue, good habit, so that citizens will also be good. Similarly, Confucius advised that if we guide with the government orders and regulations, people will seek to evade the law, and without shame they will evade, because they don't trust the government, they don't believe it. But if the government is guiding them with virtue and regulate them with proper laws, proper ethical laws, they will be having sense of shame when they are doing illegal activities. When they are evading the law, they will be feeling a sense of shame and they will try to become good. So for this, there should be transparency, effective enforcement. Transparency means people should know what is happening, and effective enforcement, it should be like similar to a poor person or a rich person, should be similar to a politician or a non-politician. So effective enforcement should be there, and data and technology will help to enhance this. So this is what the philosophical based data economic survey is giving. So there are a lot of scope of questions in ESE exam from this topic, from ethics, from economics, and some codes we have seen. So they can ask directly these codes also, who have done this. Good laws make good citizens postulated by, there can be choice. And similarly in civil service prelims also you can expect these terms: externality, invisible hand, trust, public good, characteristics of the public good. So the terms that I have underlined are important. There can be questions only from these terms, asking what are these terms. So this kind of questions we are seeing in the exam, that's why I am emphasizing this part. So there is a lot of scope for questions from this portion. Now the economic survey is dwelling in deep how to create wealth and all. So for wealth creation at the grassroots, what is the strategy? Entrepreneurship is the strategy. That is, more people should come up with ideas and they have to fuel the productivity and growth and wealth creation. So as per World Bank data, India ranks third in number of new films created. We need to know more new films, and these films have to sustain. Where these films are coming up? In manufacturing, infrastructure and agriculture. So we need wealth creation, and entrepreneurship is one of the strategy. So in this context, you can remember Startup India. So we already have got one question on why this government is promoting entrepreneurship. Here the grassroots level means entrepreneurship is at a district level, and this activity and district level has significant impact on wealth creation. As India is a heterogeneous country and there is disparity in development across different districts, places and among different sectors of people, the birth of new films in India is also heterogeneous. The literacy and education has an important role in entrepreneurship activity. Studies show that entrepreneurship activity is significantly pronounced when the literacy of the district is above 70%. Similarly, new film formation is lowest in eastern India, where the literacy rate is lower compared to other districts. Apart from literacy and education, physical infrastructure quality also determines the entrepreneurship activity. So for new films to come up, there should be enough infrastructure. Infrastructure is in terms of facilities like electricity supply, land availability, buildings, transport, incubation centers, etc. Plus, another factor is ease of doing business and flexible labor regulation, especially in the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing is labor intensive sector. So if the firm is not free to hire laborers as per his wish, it will be difficult to run the firm. So the manufacturing is the sector that we are looking forward to create the maximum jobs. So what is happening is, if a firm is there, it will try to remain small, because once you have more than a certain number of employees, lot of regulations will come in, lot of compliances will come in, unnecessary filing and regulation and related difficulties prevents the risk taking in the firms. They will try to be smaller in size, or they will go for automation once they cross a particular turnover instead of relying on labor. This makes the job creation difficult. Pro-business versus pro-market. Pro-market means enabling the market. Pro-business means supporting the business. What economic surveys tells is that there was creative destruction post-liberalization. That is, the companies which were loss making will destroy themselves. They will wind up their operations. So they cannot survive with their inefficient methods. So this happened mainly with the public sector units like Telecom, BSNL and Air India. When private sectors were allowed to come into operations, they couldn't cope up with the competition, because private players come with new technologies, efficient management, etc. Also, when technology changes also, this can happen. We have seen example of Jio. When Jio come up with new technology, many existing players have to cut down their operations because they went into losses. That is meant by creative destruction. Enabled competitive market, pro-colony policies destroyed it, because government was still preferring the incumbent players. What economic survey tells is the example of spectrum allocation, coal block allocation, gas field allocation, etc. Some impartiality was done and that have destroyed the economic value. Next is the example. It shows when government intervention hurts more than it helps. So we saw an example of price regulation of drug. So similarly, Essential Commodities Act. People will try to hoard it when the price is higher and sell it at still higher price. So preventing this, government has come up with Essential Commodities Act. But what this act did? It has reduced the incentives for creating storage infrastructure. So private sector was unwilling to develop storage sector in these sectors. They left it. And so the agricultural value chain has affected. Also, it has affected the market for these commodities. So it did more harm than what the benefits intended. Similarly, drug price control. So the prices of certain drugs have increased more than the unregulated price because of the price regulation. Next is intervention in grain market. So in grain market, government is the largest procurer. They will procure it at a particular price and they will store it and then supply. What happened? In this, private trade is totally eliminated. Government becomes the sole procurer and hoarder and supplier. And in this process, government is incurring loss, but they have to give food subsidy. They are selling it as lower price, that is 1 or 2 rupees per kg. Then the price they are procuring, that is minimum support price. So this is distorting the free market mechanism. Because of this, there is inefficiency in the agricultural market. So it is affecting the long-term growth of the agricultural sector. Still, farmers are remaining poor in the country. Right. Next is about debt waivers. Whenever there is natural calamity or crop restrictions, government will announce debt waivers. So this will help farmers, but indirectly what it will cause? It will affect the behavior of the farmers. They will tend to consume less, save less and invest less, and their credit culture will get affected. They will feel like anyway government is going to waive the debt, we should pay. So their credit culture is affected, productivity is affected, and formal credit flow is reduced. So many people are not willing to give credit to the farmers because they don't want to have the burden of debt waivers. So these are the examples. So surveys suggest that government has to examine these areas. It is not suggesting that there should not be no government intervention. Somewhere interventions are required, especially in the agricultural sector, because majority of the people are dependent on agriculture. They are still poor. But they have to identify the areas where this intervention can be reduced. How to create jobs along with the growth? So India's growth was dubbed as growth without creating jobs. So we were growing because we were growing in the tertiary sector, service sector, where the labor intensity is less or can be done with less people and more technology. So the economic activities will be there, wealth creation will be there, but there won't be much job creation compared to other sectors. So what India needs is creation of jobs along with growth. So both things should grow together. There should not be a growth without jobs. Otherwise, the benefit of the economic growth will not reach every people. it will be concentrated on only a few pockets. Those who are already advantaged in terms of literacy and skills, those people will all be getting the benefits of the growth. So what to do for creating jobs along with the growth? The idea economic survey is telling that we can take example of China, where China relied on labor intensive manufacturing. What we can do, we can assemble in India for the world. So we can procure different parts from different countries, assemble it and produce the final product. So, instead of manufacturing in India, because India we still lacking many critical resources, so manufacturing in India may not be the apt option, but we can assemble in India. This assembling is already happening in the automobile sector. That is one of the sectors that is doing good in India. We are taking products from different places and assembling it and selling, and this we can expand to the network products also. Products which are related to electrical and electronics, computers, mobile phones, chargers, chips, like that. Electrical and electronic products that we can assemble in India and trade. So it will be labor intensive. We can do it in big scale and we can export to rich countries. They will not be taking up these activities because it will not be very lucrative for them, and so we have to have associated trade policies to enable the export. That way we can create more opportunities. And about ease of doing business in India have improved a lot from 79th position in 2014. From 142nd position in 2014, India has jumped to 63 in 2019. It is a huge jump. Jumped 79 positions in 5 years. It is a great achievement. And this is in World Bank's ease of doing business ranking. But still there is some parameters that there are some parameters that we are lagging. That is ease of starting a business. Starting a business is very difficult. We have to comply with many regulations. Registering a property. Buying a property, registering property still have red tapeism. Paying taxes. Paying taxes is not that easy. It is also again lot of forms, lot of compliance requirements, etc. And enforcing contracts. Once there is a contract between two parties, how they are enforcing it? What happens if one party is not obeying the contract? It will come to dispute. So we don't have a robust dispute settlement mechanism. It will take long time. This legal process in India is too much time consuming. So the business can't wait for that much long time to solve their disputes. The dispute settling mechanism is faster. This enforcing contract will also be very good. Because of this delay in enforcing and all, many people are reluctant to enter into big contracts. And further improving the ease of doing business, we have to improve the logistics. What is logistics? Logistics is movement of goods from one place to another. So as of now in India, the logistic cost is very high. India, there are many factors behind it. There are factors like capacity of the ports, efficiency of the port operation, and infrastructure, mainly infrastructure, road connectivity, rail connectivity, etc. It is a very big hindrance in India. So what we are now trying to achieve is the seamless connection. Whether it is coming through road or railway, it should be traveled in a single path, like loading, unloading, again changing the mode of transport is very difficult. So if we can transport the goods by clubbing all this mode of transport, say for example, it will come to ports in ship, from ports it will be directly loaded to trains, from trains it will reach the container lorries, from container lorries it may reach to smaller vehicles to reach the consumer. So this whole process will be interconnected. So there should be a single policy that is controlling this, and there needs a coordination between logistic division, commerce and tax to enable this, because each and every point may be having some taxes, some other regulations. There is difference between state boundaries. So for this only we have come up with integrated tax laws like GST to avoid waiting at the state borders. So still more improvement is required in this section. The survey is taking on example of bank nationalization. What is bank nationalization? It is when the private banks were taken under government control. So government took control of many private banks at that time in 1970s, and it is opposite to what is happening now. Government is trying to privatize now, that is, government is giving away control of the public sector units to private players. So bank nationalization is opposite to privatization. So what happened after bank nationalization? According to survey, banking sector has not developed proportionally to the size of the economy. So this size of the India's economy, the banking sector should be more robust. For example, India has only one bank in the global top 10, top 100. So we take 100 top banks in globally. India has only one bank in that list. And these public sector banks accounts for 70% of the market share in Indian banking. Even though they are having 70% of the market share, they are not able to find a place in the top 100 banks because they are working inefficiently compared to other groups in different performance parameters. So public sector units inefficiency will be there because their main intention is social service than profit making. So there should be more accountability for the employees. There should be more representation of employees to the boards. Then only that sense of ownership will come and the efficiency can be improved. Similarly, we have to aggregate the PSVs in an entity, and you can use technologies like big data, artificial intelligence, etc. for better working, because these PSBs are the banks which is suffering from the NPA, most suffering from the NPA issue also, non-performing asset issue also. And next, how privatization will help in wealth creation. So the economic survey is advocating privatization for wealth creation. So wealth creation is the overarching theme of the economic survey, how we can create wealth. And one method of survey suggesting that we have to privatize the public sector units. That is what government trying to do also. They are going to invest many of the public sector units, and survey further advocates the policy. They are arguing for aggressive disinvestment of central public sector enterprises, and they are presenting the data like before and after performance of the public sector units that was privatized. So 11 central public sector units which were disinvested from 1999 to 2000 and 2003 to 2004, they are performing better in terms of financial indicators like net worth. Net worth is what is their total worth in terms of assets. It is their total assets minus their liabilities. How much finance? It includes both money and other physical properties. How much wealth they are having and how much liabilities they are having, how much they have to give out. That is how much on debt. That is net worth. Net profit. Net profit is easy. What is their expense and what is their revenue? That the difference is the what is their expense and what is their revenue. The difference is the net profit. And return of assets. They have assets, right? These assets will include equity. Equity means what is shared by the people, and debt. They have taken debt from other people to build up the assets like physical infrastructure, buildings, land, employee base, etc. So how much is the return on the asset? How much is the profit on the assets? So that profit to asset ratio gives how the entity is performing, how well the entity is performing. And return on equity. So these are seems like similar terms, but there is a small difference. Return on equity, it is only on equity. It does not account for debt. So equity will be assets minus debts. So this assets means total how much resources they are using to create the product and how much it is returning. But return on equity describes how much they are owing to the shareholders and in that how much they are earning. So it measures how the shareholders will get, how much profitable the shareholders are. So according to the kind of operations, different entities will use either ROA or ROE to measure their performance. And these are performance indicators. And survey tells that these financial indicators, performance indicators, have improved for the privatized public sector units significantly. And they are more able to generate more wealth from the same resources. This means that they are creating more wealth, they are creating more money, and that money will again go to the economy from the same resources that earlier public sector units were making. So survey suggests the disinvestment to bring in higher profitability, for efficiency, for competitiveness, and for promoting professionalism service, to bring in more professional services. This privatization is required. So what are the instruments for wealth creation? So wealth creation is increasing efficiency, opportunity, giving equal opportunity to everybody. That means compared to the incumbents is those who are already in operation. New entrants should also be able to come into the market. So there should be equal opportunity for new entrants and the people who are existing. People who are existing already have advantages, like they know how the mechanism works, they have the resources, etc. But still new entrants are able to compete with them because they will come up with new technologies. They are able to bring in disruption. So as I discussed before, this document is important for a civil service aspirant. They have to read the document 2-3 times and get the idea and use those ideas in the essay type questions. And for engineering service aspirants, there is no need of reading the full document, but keep note of the different terms associated here. Even these terms like net worth, net profit, return or assets can be a question in engineering service exam, because these public finances are included in the economic topic of engineering service exam preliminary. You can download this Hyperloop magazine from our site, and you can follow our website for more questions and videos on the relevant topics.